Imagine you've just landed at JFK Airport in New York. You're tired, jet-lagged, and craving a caffeine fix. You walk up to a counter, grab a pre-packaged $5 muffin, and go to pay. The tablet screen swivels toward you. It asks a question that feels like a pop quiz: 18%, 20%, or 25%. To a visitor, this is the first "Welcome to America" moment. You might think, wait, I picked this up myself. Why am I paying extra? But in the United States, tipping isn't just a "thank you" for exceptional service. It is a social contract, a pillar of the economy, and, for many, a moral obligation. Today, we're diving deep into the history, the etiquette, and the complex reality of American tipping culture. To understand why Americans tip so much, we have to look at the math. In many countries, the price on the menu is the price you pay. In the US, the menu price is just the opening bid. Here is the reality that many outsiders don't realize: in many US states, there is a tipped minimum wage. While the standard minimum wage might be $15 an hour in some cities, the law allows employers to pay tipped workers as little as $2.13 per hour. The logic: the government assumes the customer will make up the difference. If you don't tip, your server isn't just losing a bonus, they are essentially working for free. When you sit at a table in a Chicago diner or a Los Angeles steakhouse, you aren't just a customer, you are technically the person responsible for that server's rent. If you are traveling to the US, you need to know the unwritten rulebook. The golden rule: 20% is the standard for good service. The "I'm not happy" rule: even if the service was mediocre, 15% is often considered the bare minimum. The elite rule: in high-end fine dining, 25% is common. But it's not just restaurants. Tipping spreads through the entire American service economy like a web. The bartender, $1 to $2 per drink. The valet, $5 when they bring your car. The hotel bellhop, $2 to $5 per bag. The barber, 20% of the haircut cost. In America, if someone performs a service for you, the invisible tax is always hovering in the air. You might wonder, how did this start? Ironically, tipping didn't start in America. It started in Tudor England as a way for aristocrats to show off their wealth. In the late 1800s, wealthy Americans traveling to Europe brought the habit back to appear sophisticated. At first, Americans hated it. They thought it was anti-democratic and created a class system. There was even an Anti-Tipping Society of America, with millions of members. The shift: after the Civil War, when slavery was abolished, many businesses, particularly the Pullman Railway Company, hired formerly enslaved people. Instead of paying them a fair wage, the companies forced them to rely entirely on tips from white passengers. This transformed tipping from a European luxury into a way for businesses to avoid paying labor costs, a legacy that still influences the system today. If you visit America today, you'll notice something new: the iPad flip. We used to only tip when we sat down at a table. Now, whether you're buying a sourdough loaf at a bakery, a t-shirt at a concert, or a bottle of water at a self-checkout kiosk, the screen asks for a tip. This is what Americans call tipflation. It has created a phenomenon known as tipping fatigue. People are starting to feel frustrated. However, even with this frustration, the social pressure remains. In America, looking cheap is one of the greatest social sins you can commit. Why doesn't the US just include service in the price like Japan, France, or Australia? The incentive: many American servers actually prefer tips. A high-performing server at a busy restaurant can make $40 or $50 an hour in tips, far more than any restaurant owner would pay them as a flat wage. The illusion of choice: psychologically, Americans like the feeling of control. They believe that if they have the power to tip, they have the power to demand better service. The price tag: if a restaurant banned tipping and raised wages, a $20 burger would suddenly cost $26. To the American consumer, that looks too expensive, even if the total cost at the end of the night is exactly the same. At its core, American tipping is a reflection of the culture itself. it is individualistic, competitive, and deeply rooted in the idea of merit. When you leave that 20% on the table, you aren't just paying for a meal. You are participating in a century-old ritual. You are acknowledging the person behind the apron. So, next time you find yourself in a New York deli or a roadside diner in Texas, don't look at the tip as an extra charge. Look at it as your entry fee into the wild, complicated, and generous heart of the American experience. Just remember, when in doubt, leave the 20.